Welcome to YouTube Worldview, and thank you so very much for joining us as we take President Kagame of Rwanda on as the very first African leader to be featured by YouTube Worldview. Thank you and welcome, President.
My pleasure.
As you know, we asked a lot of people from all over the world to submit questions, whether it's video or text questions. And the questions you will be getting today will be from a very diverse group of people. And the questions range from issues of the genocide. They also range the economy, the youth, regional integration. And we're just gonna inform a lot of young people who are very curious and interested about what's happening in Rwanda. Ulisesan Makinde from Baltimore in the US asks, what strategies have you used to bridge the division along ethnic lines in your country? What advice do you have for leaders in countries like Nigeria, Libya, DRC, Congo, and others that are currently divided along ethnic lines? And I think maybe to add to that question, also preventing those kinds of things from happening in the first place.
Really, for a country to be divided on the basis of ethnicity or tribes or other lines, it takes bad leaders and bad politics. So if you start by recognizing that people have equal rights and people will be different, whether individually or groups, and still, even with that diversity, you can still have a general sense of direction that befits a country, a nation, and that you can, after all, harness this diversity for the common good. Therefore, people being different comes with certain benefits. It means people from their diverse backgrounds, they have what to bring to the table that is different from what the other one brings. So why not be sensible enough to say, we'll put our resources together for the common good. If it is security, it concerns everybody. If it is about development, it concerns everybody. If it is stability of any sense, it is in the benefit of everyone. So if you start from that point, then you have every reason to believe that the country can be united, as we are trying to achieve here in Rwanda after a tragic history, and we are seeing it working. So bad politics, bad leaders, and people who don't recognize that in a diversity we have a lot of strength, and brought that, if that is brought together to bear on the different challenges that society faces, then you stand a better chance of overcoming such a challenge.
I think you raised an interesting point where you said it's bad politics and bad leaders. Then it appears then, because we seem to have on the African continent a bit of a problem when it comes to tribal issues. How do you think that, because it seems that maybe we have a leadership and political deficit. So how do we then develop good leadership and good politics?
I think it is important to learn lessons. Mm-hmm. You see, how can problems go on in our continent for such a long time? It means we don't learn lessons. Otherwise, there has been a lot in the history of this continent and our countries that we should have learned from, and therefore stop repeating mistakes. I mean, what does it take for us to understand that, say, corruption is bad, and there are ways to deal with the corruption? I mean, do we need any more lessons about poverty and how that affects families, societies, nations? And poverty deprives them of their dignity. And in fact, in the end, the lives of many are lost or are not valued as they should, whether at home or abroad, in which case that's how people become dependent. When you are dependent or patron on others, it means something has gone wrong. It means also that your value is degraded. So all these are lessons that should challenge leaders to say we need to do things differently, and we can do things differently and get different results that we seek to achieve. So it's about, at every stage, for every generation, lessons should be learned from our history, and people should seek to do better. Mm-hmm. They should seek to challenge themselves, and they should seek to not look at themselves just as individuals and just look for what is in it for them as individuals, but rather what they can bring to whatever is being done for the common good, for the societies, for our nations. This is why young people need to grow up learning these lessons and therefore shaping their attitudes and behaviors that can deal with such problems.
Makunzi from Kachiru asks, could you tell us in a few words what you love about your country and what inspires you the most to do what you do?
Well, I belong to my country, and I'm one of many that inhabit my country, men and women. And I like being who I am. I like belonging where I belong. And what inspires me is that I cherish the values that all Rwandans do cherish, and I have a responsibility to making Rwanda a better country, and I have to carry on with that responsibility and do the best I can for the best results. So that sense of responsibility drives me and inspires me, and it has been a pleasure to work with the Rwandans because the response has been very good. Everybody is putting in a lot of effort to make a difference for themselves and the whole country.
The next question is actually, it's a video question, and it's a journalist from Kigali.
Hello, my name is Phoebe Mutasi. I am a journalist from the Daily Monitor. I'm a correspondent in Rwanda, recently moved here. I'd like to ask you on your opinion on what's happening in Uganda currently with the walk to work demonstrations. In the last couple of weeks, people have been peacefully demonstrating against fuel prices and food, and they've organized to walk to work as a way to let the government know what's happening. This has been met by the government's strong hand, and which always results into chaos and the riot, especially the last few days on the 28th of April. As a leader and a leader of a neighboring country, what is your opinion on what's happening there? What would you rather the government did differently, or how would they have handled it differently?
I would not start from a point where there is an assumption that I can tell others what to do or what to do differently, because different countries, different situations have different contexts, and there will be problems as we have our own problems here that we deal with in the best way we can deal with them. So in a situation like that, there are different views, different opinions, there's things happening, there are people with grievances, there are others who have different views. The most important thing is to have such a process is that people interact and argue and debate, and sometimes there are these sufferings that go on. But in the end, the outcome probably makes people move to a better place than they have been before. So I'm not unaware of what's happening in different places, including what the journalists as in Uganda. And I'm sure Ugandans are capable people to deal with their own situation, with the government or the people and different groups that see things differently. There are these struggles that go on in every situation, and I hope in the end reason should prevail, and there should be an outcome that people deserve, that takes the country rather forward instead of backwards. So I really can't comment beyond that, but when there are people struggling for different things, they have different ways they do that, and government's responsibility is really to make sure that, after all, it's a government to govern a country of people, and it's a government of people. It's people that put such a governments in place. And the governments should always be reasonable to make sure that what they do is in the best interests of the people. So I can't sit here and be the judge of situations in other countries. I think that would not be very correct.
Next question is also a video question, and it's really about opportunities for young people.
If you could ask any questions to the youth of Rwanda, what would it be?
So now it's your turn to ask questions and not answering them.
Yes. The question this time would be, as the young people grow in this environment of ours and the country and the context we live in, what lessons are they learning, and are these lessons preparing them for the future challenges and the role they should have in dealing with these challenges? This is something I would be interested in understanding from the youth.
You have often talked about the necessity of breaking African dependency on Western aid. What steps is Rwanda taking to achieve this? Do you see it happening in your lifetime?
Yes, I think it is already happening that our people are taking charge of the process, the different processes that take them to their destiny, and that is prosperity and development that we seek to have for our people and in our country. I think there is already, first of all, the attitude matters a lot, the mentality that people can do many things for themselves, and even if depending on the different kinds of support, it should not be support 100% for them to be able to do whatever they want to do. It should be maybe support that fills the gap that there is, but we should be able to be doing things for ourselves. And then we shouldn't do that forever. We shouldn't depend on others forever. The gap that there is that support fills should continue to narrow up to a point where we are able to stand on our own. And here I'm talking about the principle. I'm not talking about saying it should come in 2 weeks or 1 month or 1 year. I'm talking about a process, and how long it takes depends on how fast people are building their capacities to be able to deal with their challenges. And here, this is what Rwanda is doing when we are investing, for example, in agriculture to make sure that we have food security so that our people, our citizens, can put food on the table. They are able to feed themselves or even to export what they produce. And that's one way of dealing with it. When we invest in education, giving access to every Rwandan, to every young Rwandan, and young and old, and giving them quality education, vocational training, technical and vocational training, giving them skills. It's about really empowering our citizens to make sure that they can do things themselves. When we talk about the investments we've made, the decent investments we've made in the area of health, having a healthy population is very critical, and we make such investments. When we talk about good governance, it's about instilling in people the sense of decency and responsibility for themselves, and how they organize, how they govern themselves. All this adds up to empowering people so that they grow their capacities, they are able to deal with their different challenges, they can cooperate with others, they can work together with others across the region and beyond, but they don't have to be perpetually dependent on others. And when we are talking about aid, as I do many times, and how it should be used, this is more about how it should be used. It's not, I've seen a bit of confusion. Sometimes people say, Rwanda has said this, or Kagame has said this about aid, and it's as if they don't need aid. It's not what we are talking about. What we are talking about is better use of aid. And for us, better use of aid means using aid in such a way that in the future you don't need aid. Meaning, therefore, building these capacities I was talking about that make people, that make a country stand on their own and move on. But aid can be needed in different ways. One is the emergency one, the humanitarian aid that deals with the crisis and so on and so forth, that is required. The other one is for development. It is also required, but it is required in a certain context, and therefore should be used in a certain manner that really in the end the country and the people of that country are empowered to be able to move on and take charge of themselves.
African leaders are consistently rendering democratic elections null and void by refusing to cede power to winning candidates, with latest example in Ivory Coast. What is your view about this growing trend?
The growing trend around elections in Africa, in particular as the question suggests, builds on many weaknesses, on many things. We can look at it in that context. Where, first of all, there has been confusion. People have taken elections as an end in themselves, rather than as a means, as expression of different things that lead to a certain outcome. Now, you may have the people, and this is both, there is confusion about this both in Africa and outside of Africa, because it's as if the message, go for elections, and they don't care about the context, they don't care about issues, it's about just having elections. And evidently, the reality has come out differently, and even people seem to learn a few lessons from that. So, you may herd the people into elections, and that's what happens. It's like the winner it is not necessarily coming out of the expression of the people. Sometimes it is made to be seen as whoever has power to manipulate or to, just force people into something, and in whatever direction we will take the day. And so elections, for them to be successful and to lead to a good outcome, a stable outcome, brings into play many other things. It's about these other values, these other practices that should be seen to happen, to take place on everyday basis. Is there a fight against corruption? Is there allowing people to express themselves? Is there, a sense of accountability that at different levels, every citizen, every leader is seen to be held accountable? There is that broad sense of things that must be happening. And then when election takes place, when it comes, then these values are expressed, are practiced in the process. But you will see, we've also seen places where people go for elections, the outcome is there, and somehow those in power will use their power to just, stay in it, stay in power, and they dictate the results. And even when that has been seen in places, sometimes people say, okay, there was this, but it was not enough, and then, so it's like people start saying, for reasons of stability, yes, there was rigging, there was cheating, but not enough. So the moment you start giving this allowance and then it becomes a way of life. Then you don't turn around and says being surprised by, So people have made it a joke now. It has turned out to be a joke, and it's absurd, and it keeps leading us in a wrong direction, and we see it every day. And Ivory Coast is just an example to the other extreme end. Now, who is the winner really in Ivory Coast? Because the country is left divided, many are dead and others wounded, not only body wounds, but, really spiritual wounds are left behind, and the country is in a mess. But there was, some authority there, international authority, UN or this, and they oversaw that, and its elections, its outcome is as if nothing else. But the reality is different. Yes, so I think people need to be sober. They need to calm down. They need to really study the issues and understand what is at stake that is beyond just a process of elections, where sometimes one person or the other who seems to have this power in his hands, or whether it is money or the gun, and deciding the results, and everybody going along with that.
Mr. President, with respect to your last term, which ends in 2017, can you reaffirm publicly that you won't seek re-election by any means? With respect to Victoire Ingabire's trial, how can you assure it isn't really politically motivated?
Well, on the first question, I think I have again answered it very many times. But I just respond to this one as well. Come 2017, when the second term I'm serving ends, I should have no problem in respecting not only the Constitution, but also in a broader sense, respecting Rwandans and myself. And that is living by my word and the commitment I have made in this process of serving my people and my country. So the expectation is that, and I have no reason not to meet that expectation. And for me to serve my country, I have served my country, by the way, even before I became president. So serving my country has nothing to do with being president. Only that when you are a president, you serve in a much higher capacity and in a broader sense, or probably the highest capacity you can serve in for your country. But I can still serve even after my presidency. I can still serve my country, in different ways. So there are all these things that come together, and while of course this question will be repeated all the time, which doesn't serve me very well to keep answering this question every day, every month until 2017. But if people were to believe me for the moment, and then we wait for when 2017 comes, people to say, but you told us this, but to keep answering it every day until 2017 is a big problem. Is a big diversion from.
I'll just ask people. Stop asking this question. It's been answered.
Yes, thank you. And for Ingabire, here again, some of these things. For people here in Rwanda, they understand this problem better. Again, we have explained this problem for a long time. Well, first of all, the assurance lies in the fact that the reasons for which this person, Ingabire, has been held accountable have been almost endlessly, again, being talked about, presented in the open. And the case is in the court of law. The trial processes have been in the general public. The facts have been presented about the case, the evidence, the history, the context, and everything. So there is it's only those who may not want to listen or to understand and believe what they are seeing or hearing that keep asking this question. So there is nothing hidden behind what you see. What you see is what it is about this case and about many things that happen here. So it's only a question of deciding to believe and also trust and the processes and the people and institutions, as we have honestly tried to build them and to serve the country the best way they can. So this case is in the open, it's in public. The history, everything has been put in the open. Yes, so it's about people deciding what to believe and how they look at things.
The next question again is about the youth of Rwanda. Thank you, Mr. President, for allowing us to ask you questions. During your last visit in Kigali Institute for Science and Technology, you said students are drivers of change. How is education in Rwanda preparing students to be real drivers of change? What change would you like to see? It's from Ami in Sweden.
Yes, students, young people of this country, and I believe of other countries, but I may confine myself to talking about my country, are certainly drivers of change, or rather that's even what we want to see them as. And we invest in them so that they actually serve as drivers of change. When we are empowering them, when we are investing heavily in education, when we are investing in the different programs, giving them skills, giving them even the kind of, or rather making them aware that there is a need for this new mentality, this new attitude that Indeed, they are the drivers of change. They are leaders of tomorrow, and therefore they have got to prepare for this responsibility. So for us, it's to bring this awareness. It's again to give them the tools to use. In the end, really, it's the students or the young people to seize the opportunity and also make these things happen. These things won't happen unless we understand that what needs to be done and what we need to have in our hands to be able to do that, and then go ahead and do it. It's one thing to have that mentality, then it's another to be seen to be doing what needs to be done. Sometimes people know what to do, but they end up not doing it. So, or they end up doing different things because of a calculation that is made, and sometimes people go for short-term gains rather than long-term gains. But all of these are issues that need to be talked about, need to be discussed, and we need to challenge ourselves, all of us, leaders, young people, students who are also leaders in their own right at their different levels, and be driven by wanting not only to see change, but see change in terms of how we deliver on the results, our expectations, our objectives. This is critical. Yes, so we move from just talking about what needs to happen and maybe saying things the right way and saying good things, but also make sure that we do things that actually give us the results.
One of the interesting things about this question is your interest in technology and using information technology to reach out to people. You're on Twitter, one of the few leaders who are very engaged on Twitter, and you also have a YouTube channel. And this question is from John Cassia in Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. One advantage developing economies have is they can jump straight to new technology. What potential do you see for mobile communications to improve the lives of Rwanda?
Just because the audio again wasn't that great, the question is, what advantage do developing countries have when it comes to new technology? What potential do you see for mobile technology in improving the lives of Rwandans?
Yes, developing countries have advantage because we can leapfrog. We don't have to go through the process of reinventing the wheel. It has already been invented. So we just go to the latest, to the best that there is already, without having to go all the way, starting from the beginning. This is a very huge advantage, but again, it will be an advantage to people who seize that opportunity and really take the advantage that is there. The fact that it is there alone is not enough. People have to move on and seize that opportunity. So technologies or new technologies present a lot of opportunities. They support entrepreneurship, they support innovation, they support creativity. They constitute a business themselves. They present economic activities that people can benefit from. So they serve as drivers. And these are tools that you can use, but they also serve as a wide base on which you can develop economic activities. So it's very, and therefore for Rwanda, we are using not only these technologies, but the best way we can use them is to first of all make them accessible to our people, make sure that our people will be able to use them and affordable, and then we build on from there. So information technology is very critical. It informs our people. It gives them enormous amount of information and ways and therefore means to get things, but they can also communicate. They have views, so that exchange takes place, and once it takes place in a society, then it allows the society to really, accelerate their development, whether it is in the governance or in development or, different aspirations that are there generally for people and countries.
What do you plan for this young Rwandan generation who are suffering from poverty and unemployment, especially students at universities? Khaya from Rwanda.
You see, while we can't deny there is poverty that we still have to struggle with, for sure there is less poverty now than there was 10 years ago. Absolutely different situation we have today. But we can't be complacent. We've been registering growth in our economy. We're seeing changes in the rural areas and urban areas, quite good development. But there are still these challenges of poverty, no question. So the best way we overcome the question that is being asked is to continue making the right investments that we've been making. As I said, for rural poverty, we've invested heavily in agriculture. Rwanda is one of the first countries to put 10% of our national budget into agriculture and made a huge difference in very few years, and making sure that there is food security and people can, feed themselves and can also they have what to take on to the market to, get money out of this and so on and so forth. We invest in education, even these universities that are being talked about where you can still find poverty are universities that have recently been established, put up there. They never used to exist. We have thousands of students going to school that were not able to go to school in the first place. We have more people graduating and finding jobs. There are others who may struggle to find jobs, but we are also investing in the development of our private sector so that, jobs can be found, and we are investing in technical and vocational training institutions and activities, and all to empower people, not only for them to be able to seek jobs, but even to create jobs. So it's a process. It's a process. I wish we had some way of shortening the suffering of our people that are experiencing poverty. We would want to do that, but we are doing the best we can, and I think with very significant progress.
Makia Efimba from Qatar. What measures has the government taken to encourage the diaspora, especially those in the West, to return and contribute in the development of Rwanda?
In fact, the diaspora has played a very important role in the development of Rwanda right from the beginning. We saw for the last 17 years, people who were living outside of our country in different parts and had benefited from the different opportunities to develop themselves and have come back to make their contribution to the development of the country, and they still do so. So what we did was to organize ourselves. First of all, we created a department in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and in fact, one of the responsibilities of our Ministry of Foreign Affairs is to oversee this link between the country and the people, Rwandans in diaspora, and make sure that we tap into their goodwill and capacities to contribute to the development of the country. So that is well structured, organized, and there is good communication going on. And the response is very good. You know, the remittances, the people who come, even when they have decided to stay abroad for various reasons, good reasons, they have, you know, different times they come to serve the country, whether they are lecturers, you know, in education institutions, or, you know, different experts in different areas. They offer their time to come and contribute. And then they may decide to go back to continue with their responsibilities outside of Rwanda. So it flows very well, and we continue to encourage it. Even when I travel abroad, our embassies and organize for me to meet and talk to people out there, and they also ask to have that. Sometimes it's on their request that they want to be informed about the direction the country is taking, about the needs and what they can do, and there is always this exchange going on. It's very interesting.
Evode from Cape Town, and they say, hello, you personally use social networking websites like Twitter. Do you think modern day leaders and government officials should use these platforms as a means to reach young people or as a means to broadcast vital information? And before you ask that question, I just want to lead on with another question. Considering today's technology and access to that everyone has, do you think that had we had this kind of technology 17 years ago, that what happened could have been prevented, if not been prevented, could have happened at a much lower scale?
Yeah, let me answer the first one. My experience with the use of the social media is that, yes, it gives an opportunity to communicate with a very wide audience, not only at home, even abroad. So it comes with a wealth of information and ideas, and really the whole value of connecting with the people. And in doing so, therefore, that provides a platform in which to really air your views, hear from other people's views. And it's very instructive indeed, even in the more probably subtle ways than the open ones. There is a lot that happens that is even not seen as such, but has very huge impact. So I entirely subscribe to making use of the social media, and I'm sure I'm saying I benefited. Maybe other people would benefit too. So the leaders in government and other leaders would certainly benefit. At least would be informed if they want to on many things, and it creates this healthy link with the wider audience globally, even not just domestically. Now, on the second question, which makes a lot of sense, I think, yes, there would have been, this situation would have been much better if we had the same tools that time, 17 years ago, because it would bring more awareness. It would be a process of mobilization for a good cause. But of course, this also means, I think it would be more positive than negative. I was going to say, even negative people could use it, to the same effect. But I think I would believe there would be more use for the better cause than really for such a negative ones as such. Because some of the activities that took place were hidden really from the eyes of the general public. or what it was called really wasn't what it was. So voices would have come out to say, no, what you say is really not what it is. It's something else is happening. And there would have been more people, challenging the wrong things that were happening. So in essence, certainly the matter would have been different. Yes.
The final question. If you could dine with one person whom you have never met before, living or dead, who would it be and why?
That's a tough one, because I haven't been thinking about it. I haven't been thinking about who to dine with, but certainly I believe in connecting with the people, in knowing people, in associating with people for different good reasons, and I'm sure, given that opportunity and the time to think about it, I would come with a list of those I would happily want to dine with that I haven't. But I have already dined with so many people, and some of them it's not because I thought about doing it. It has also just been a chance presented itself somehow, by itself. But there are others where I initiate that. But I haven't thought about, those that I would so much want to, but I guess they are there. So next question, I will answer it.
Thank you very much for giving the world's audience to have this opportunity to ask you questions, and we really appreciate it. And I really hope that we are going to have a much better insight into you, into Rwanda, and into how the country works. Thank you very much.